and massive reforms to country's tax laws in 2026 budget. Also coming up, ratings agency Standard & Poor's warns Ghana's economy is still exposed to external shocks despite recent stability. Meanwhile, Ghana makes significant progress on signing debt agreement with all bilateral creditors after first deal with Germany. We have details of this and more coming up in this bulletin. Stay tuned. My name is Winston Taki, and this is the Marketplace. Now to our first business story. Finance Minister Dr. Kesela Tuforsen is set to announce a marginal reduction in the VAT that will be paid by businesses from next year. This will be captured in the 2026 that will be presented to Parliament this Thursday. The Finance Minister will also roll some massive reforms to the country's current tax laws. The move is expected to reduce that tax rate to help aid compliance by businesses. Let's get on to Zoom and get the thoughts of economist Professor Patrick Esumin for some analysis on this and other issues. Welcome to the Marketplace, Prof.
Thank you.
Great.
Good afternoon to viewers.
Great. Would you describe this as a good move by government, or should there be some caution, especially considering that revenue performance has been weak recently?
Yeah, I think I would prefer to withhold any judgment on this until I see the full extent of the reforms that have been made. So when you say the VAT rate is going to be reduced, it depends. I mean, if you were on 4% flat rate and it's being unified to something close to 12, then for yours it's probably a little higher. And I think in terms of its impact on the revenue position, well, we have to see the full extent of the reforms. How much effort has been made to improve the compliance, and then also what have we done with the exemptions? Because if you manage to cut the exemptions, then you could actually be in a position to lower the rate and still raise more revenue. But without those additional details, it's very difficult to see how we should look at this.
Should government go through that direction? Do you think this development could motivate businesses to be more tax compliant?
I think that, yes, it helps. Generally, it helps that when the tax rates are low, or when you increase the tax rate, then the tendency to look for ways for avoiding the tax increases. So in that sense, it's good. But I think that at the same time, whether the rate comes down or not, efforts to improve compliance has to be taken seriously, because our tax effort on the VAT is not where it should be. We are not collecting as much as we should be collecting, given the size of our economy and the rate. So I think reducing the rate might help in that scope, but either way, we need to improve the enforcement.
Great. Prof, what are your expectations for the 2026 budget, particularly in the area of government expenditure?
Yeah, I think 2026 will be an interesting year. If you look at the consolidation that was contained in the 2025 budget, a chunk of it was expenditure rationalization, government managing its expenditure so that it doesn't grow. And I think while that is helpful, you get a sense that 1 year has passed, or at least by the time the budget is passed, the government would have been in power for 1 year, and people will be expecting that the government should be implementing its programs. So you get a sense that some additional expenditures will be required, and I think that's where the revenue conversation comes in, because you can't the 2025 budget, you can't pass that kind of budget multiple years in a row where you put a firm restraint on spending. Of course, there's also a means that you could actually spend at the same rate if you have improved the efficiency of the spending, so that you've cut a lot of waste in the government spending. Then that way you can still keep spending at the levels of 2025 and still be able to implement your project. But I guess that you haven't gotten there yet. So you get a sense that some growth in government spending higher than we saw in the 2025 budget is what should be at play, because the 24-hour economy has to be implemented. We have to scale up the implementation, and then you have to think about all the other things that government is planning to do. After 1 year of setting up secretariat and setting up structures, now is the time for action. So you get a sense that some substantial increment in government spending might be coming.
Right, Prof, what's your take on Standard & Poor's latest verdict on Ghana's economy and the recent ratings upgrade?
I think it's a fair reflection. The fact that the credit rating has been upgraded is fairly consistent with what the other rating agencies have done, and it reflects the current improvement that we've seen in the economy. No two ways about that. The debt restructuring is moving closer to completion, and our external position, especially our reserves level, has strengthened. But I think we also have to take the question seriously. Currently, it looks like one of the biggest drivers of the strengthened reserve position, as well as the currency, has been how well gold is performing. But we have to understand that we don't control the price of gold. It's still subject to all the international variations that we see. So I think it's important that we exercise caution and that we take that caution seriously, and that we begin to build more reserves against a rainy day, because the price of gold will not continue rising forever.
Thank you very much, Professor Patrick Esumeh, for speaking to us here on the expectation of the 2026 budget presentation, which is scheduled to be presented by the Finance Minister come Thursday. We'll certainly be giving you up today. But still on the issue of the 2026 budget, let's now get the perspective of business and their expectations. And we are joined on Zoom by the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Dr. Patrick Ofori, Dr. Ofori, to give us more insight as well. Now, from a business standpoint, what are your key expectations ahead of the 2026 budget presentation?
Good afternoon to you and your listeners, your viewers and listeners as well. We expect the macroeconomic stability to remain relatively consistent with what we've enjoyed, and maybe an improved version. Inflation and interest rates should maybe come down slightly to also ensure that we are able to fund additional investment within the sectors that we operate in. We also expect the stability of the currency to be relatively stable and quite predictable to ensure that we are able to plan. Compared this year to last year, it's been relatively stable, but at a time that it was very volatile, which also created a lot of problem for those of us who have maybe hedged against an exchange rate of, let's say, 16 point something, whereby the currency came down strongly to around 10. It impacted negatively on businesses, although on the average, we all felt that the currency has been strong performing. So the rate at which it performs is something that we really need to ensure that we are able to do that.
Great.
In addition, we expect government to invest in the construction sector, especially the roads side, leading into the depots area, whereby most of the government revenue, about 10% of the revenue that we're going to be budgeted for, are coming from for the safety. I think you wanted to ask something.
Great. Now, the Chamber has in the past raised concerns about taxation. What's your reaction to the Finance Minister's proposed marginal reduction in the VAT rate for 2026?
I think it will be prudent if we can get actually the details of what rate of what percentage decrease is going to be, and how efficient the tax authorities are going to leverage on that, and how best we can also leverage on the reduction to ensure that our business community are able to.
From the business standpoint, what is a workable rate margin that you perceive will help advance your operations?
I think what we also need to be careful about is that we know the current situation that we are in, so we may are not necessarily expecting anything lower than 15% reduction, but something that is more accommodating. And then also, if it could be stratified based on services that are being provided by certain businesses, that quota that previously was, I think, 3 or 4% basic rate. If there is the need for small businesses that don't have a turnaround of more, let's say, $1 million to even have, we can graduate that so that they may have maybe 2 or 3%, and then those within a certain range can also have maintain what is currently in existence. That, in a way, may be much more feasible and promote both the business side and then also help our government in amassing revenue for the various investment that we want them to make within the various.
Are there any specific industry concerns you'd like the finance minister to address in the upcoming budget?
Clearly, I don't think it is fair on any one of us that we continue to subsidize a dirty fuel. Just listening to the Minister for Lands delivering that wonderful speech at the COP in Brazil, making a clear indication that Ghana is going to promote cleaner energy sources within there. And then in the same vein, we subsidize a dirty fuel like the premise. Last year alone, we spent, as a country, we spent over 217 million Ghana cedis subsidizing premise fuel, which we were pushing that, well, for us to achieve the purpose for which it was intended, we need to look at alternative cleaner forms to support our brothers in the fishing industry. And then also that 217 million can even be dedicated along those within the fishing communities or those who uses the boat for transporting, to ensure that that impact goes to the citizen and not necessarily the business owners who own these vessels. It's one aspect. We also expect that the taxes on LPG, which is much more a cleaner fuel, if there could be a reduction from currently as it stands, well, it's around about 15%. But you check countries like Morocco, Cote d'Ivoire, and some of our neighbors that are promoting LPG and cleaner forms of energy, it's more or less being subsidized, and that is what is promoting that success rate. But if we cannot necessarily even subsidize it, what we expect the government to do is if the tax component on it be reduced drastically.
Finally, from the budget, with crude oil prices falling and the city showing some stability, what should consumers expect regarding fuel prices from November 16?
If the trend continue like this, we can be confident that if you are buying your fuel for 11.20 pesos now, we expect that it will go below the 11. It will go below 11, whereby we expect consumers to be buying around 10.9 thereabout.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Ofori, for speaking to us here on the expectation of the 2026 budget presentation. Yes, Joy Business will bring you up-to-date analysis before, after, during, certainly, the presentation of the budget here on Joy News. Now, away from that, ratings agency Standard & Poor's is warning that Ghana's economy is still exposed to external risks despite recent stability. This was captured in its latest report on Ghana. There's more in this report.
The agency in the report noted, since the current economic recovery has also been influenced by soaring commodity prices, any change in these prices could have some serious impact on Ghana's economy going forward. Standard & Poor's in the report stated, since the country's food situation in terms of crop production is heavily dependent on favorable weather conditions, any negative changes could also affect Ghana badly. Another development that has kept the rating agency a little worried is that the current fiscal reforms the government is implementing are yet to be tested, especially during an election year, which in the past has resulted in spikes in public debt and expenditure. It appears it is not only Standard & Poor's that has raised its concerns about Ghana's economy and its possible threat. The World Bank in a recent report also raised a similar concern.
In another development, the country is making some significant progress on signing debt agreements, which was by bilateral creditors. This was after the Finance Ministry initiated a deal with Germany. We have details in the following report.
The development should mean that Germany has become the latest creditor to agree to allow Ghana to vary the terms when it comes to how the debt owed it should be settled going forward. This was after Germany agreed to the terms proposed by Ghana. Germany therefore becomes the sixth country after the likes of Spain and UK reached a similar deal with the government of Ghana. The Finance Ministry is going ahead to sign these deals after reaching an agreement in principle with about 25 of the bilateral creditors. However, only 6 have signed debt restructuring with the country. Government sources say they have made significant progress with these creditors for a deal to be signed soon. It is hoping that this should pave the way for government to sign debt restructuring deal with the commercial creditors. Ghana is hoping to restructure about $2.8 billion owed these bilateral creditors.
We have more business update for you right after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now to more business update. The Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, in partnership with the National Insurance Commission, is set to register and license all insurance practitioners in the country, particularly technical underwriters. The move is aimed at sanitizing the industry and curbing unethical practices. Joy Businesses in Kwanzaa has more in this report.
President of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Ghana, Solomon Latte, says the initiative forms part of a broader effort to enhance professionalism, transparency, and accountability in the insurance sector.
Sustainability completes this equation. It challenges organizations to think beyond short-term gains and to align their business models with long-term societal well-being. True sustainability is not simply about minimizing harm, but about creating shared value, strengthening the fabric of trust between business and the communities they serve.
Speaking at the 2025 CIIG Educational Conference and General Meeting held under the theme, Balancing the Compliance, Ethics and Business Sustainability Equation.
We need to regulate the broker space a lot more, because as soon as somebody retires, they become a broker. And there are so many brokerage firms in the country. So what do? Thankfully, the National Insurance Commission, through the new law, has brought various categories of brokers and innovative insurance companies, innovative brokers, some specialized agencies, etc. So those things are there. So once we have that, then regulation of brokers must go up so that our broker space is sanitized. We can have master brokers, we have wholesale brokers, corporate brokers, retail brokers, etc. And that will make the practice much, much better.
Meanwhile, former Commissioner of Insurance and fellow Dr. Justice Yaofori has urged practitioners in the insurance and financial sector to uphold the highest ethical standard in their work.
And as professionals, we should be guided by such disciplines. I believe that with introduction of courses, of conferences like this, then it creates awareness within the industry that despite the fact that we are training people to be professionals, ethics is a must. We should abide by it. We should be doing the right thing even if nobody is actually watching us.
For Joy Business, in Kwanzaa, Western Region.
The inaugural regional flight for United Nigeria Airlines has been launched in Accra, Ghana, with daily flights to Abuja and 4 weekly trips to Lagos. The airline promises exceptional customer service and safe pleasant flight between Ghana and its West African neighbor, Nigeria. Here's more from the launch of the airline's operations in Ghana, which featured the aircraft named after Ghana's former president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings.
Will operate daily flights to Abuja and 4 weekly flights to Lagos, Nigeria, offering passengers the opportunity to travel to each country with ease, whether for business or leisure. United Nigeria Airlines becomes the 25th international airline to operate at the Kotoka International Airport. At the launch, Chairman and CEO of the airline, Professor Obiora Okonkwo, was optimistic that venturing into the Ghanaian market would boost bilateral ties and open up business opportunities.
From the warm welcome I've enjoyed here, I can actually join my voice to say I now have a new home in Ghana. From today, before you want to book your flight to Lagos or Abuja return, check if we still have space in United Nigeria. We'll be glad if you make us airline of choice.
The first Nigeria Airlines aircraft to land at the Kotoka International Airport was symbolically named after the late president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Former Information Minister Fritz Bafo and Sports Minister Kofi Adams represented the Rawlings family. Expressing gratitude on behalf of the family, Kofi Adams eulogized the former president.
He enjoyed his flying. He said when he flew away from Accra and beyond Kumasi, you will not see any light. You could only find electricity, power, find light in the night in Accra and all the way up to Kumasi. Beyond that, you didn't find any light. So when he got the opportunity, he has to introduce the rural electrification project to make sure that power was extended to every part, first every district.
Meanwhile, Yvonne Nana-Efiri-Opare, CEO of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, was optimistic that the addition of United Nigeria Airlines will improve interregional travels and expand the region's aviation industry.
We will work closely with United Nigeria Airlines to help maintain a high on-time performance and smooth ground operations. It is our expectation that United Nigeria Airlines, in turn, will go the extra mile to deliver exceptional customer service, ensuring that every passenger enjoys a seamless, safe, and pleasant travel experience.
The airlines say launching its first regional flights on the 10th of November, which happens to be the 5th memorial anniversary of the late President Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, was in honor of his legacy.
Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power.